So I'll let them know about that. Answer a few calls from people logging in, because it's in the States, stuff like that. So there's lots of people watching. No, that's staring at me right now. So you're live right now. So we're in this and this mic is on. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone in the room here and everyone watching. My name is Mike Dodds, and I've known Ralph Carter for more than 50 years. I met him up at Sparrow Lake when we were both little skinny kids doing lodge work. On behalf of Ralph's family, I want to thank all of you for being here today, whether here in person or whether you're participating through the service online. For being here to remember, to celebrate the life of such an amazing man. And may I start by saying a special thank you to Doolittle's for making accommodations to allow for this safe space today. And I would ask everyone, except if you're at the mic, to respect and follow the safety protocols, wearing a mask, keeping a distance, okay, to keep us all safe. And I think you all know, but immediately following the service in 1 hour at 2 p.m., we're all going to go out to the parking lot, and there will be a drive pass for people to come and honor Ralph and say hello to the family who couldn't be here. So Doolittle's, thank you for setting all that up. It really helps. So I want to begin today to Lois and to Diane, to Lynn, to Elizabeth and Elliot, to Rob and Janice and Brenda and Brian, all of Ralph's family, nieces and nephews, and all of extended family. I just want to start by expressing to all of you our condolences and our prayers for you after such a long journey. You all nurtured Ralph from his earliest years in Udney. You loved him and you cared for him through 70 years of his remarkable life, and including and especially the last 6 years when he was battling MSA. And I think also at this moment, I want to say a very special thank you to Dr. Tillman, to all the PSWs and nurses and staff who helped make Ralph more comfortable those years at Birchmere, as well as the support and compassion that was always received from Soldiers Memorial Hospital when it was needed. Now, we all know that you had the best and the most gracious and gentle patient ever, and I'm sure that Ralph touched all of you, but he needed you, and you were there. So thank you. We can never thank our frontline workers and our first responders enough for all they do. And today this room is filled with Ralph's colleagues from the Aurelia Fire Department. Ralph retired as captain in that department, and we're going to hear from former chief in a few minutes. So thank you to all of you. So we've all come from different places today, many miles. So I'm just going to invite you for a moment to just settle and to breathe and to allow yourself to be present here with Ralph's memory and with each other as we pray. Loving God, we gather today to remember John Ralph Carter, who we all agree was the most gentle and compassionate and caring, and fun-loving and brave and dedicated man that any of us could ever call father, partner, son, brother, colleague, or friend. We thank you for the gift of his life and for the countless ways that Ralph touched each one of us. We pray also that today we can continue to honor Ralph through remembering and through celebrating and through practicing all that he taught us through his 70 years with us. Amen. My friends, in today's service, we're going to hear a reading from Scripture in a moment from St. Paul. And then we're going to, and we're also going to have some music throughout. This is from Ralph's playlist, some of his favorite songs, so I think you'll recognize some of them. But we're going to start with a reading, and then we're going to invite some people to reflect on Ralph's life to help fill out the picture of his life with us. So to begin with, I'd like to invite a longtime friend of Ralph, Enzo Catini, one of the Weber gang, worked with Ralph years and years ago at Weber's, to come forth to do our reading. Enzo.
Hello, everyone. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. Different kinds of service, but the same God. Different kinds of work, but in all of them and in every one, the same Spirit at work. The manifestation of the Spirit is given by the common good. To one is given a message of wisdom, to another a message of knowledge, to another faith, to another healing, to another the gift of service, to another compassion. All of these diverse gifts are the work of the same Spirit, who attributes to each one for the good of all.
So that reading from St. Paul to the Corinthians was written centuries and centuries ago, but really what he's doing is kind of describing what a good life looks like and what a healthy community is made of. He says different kinds of gifts, but a shared spirit of giving. Gifts of wisdom and knowledge and faith and healing and service and compassion. Not held in selfishly, but given freely and generously to build up a community. Now tell me, when you hear that reading, who comes to mind? I think St. Paul has encapsulated Ralph's life to a T. Maybe all that's missing in that is something about a wonderful sense of humor and a spark of joy, which Ralph was able to maintain even through his years of suffering. He somehow hung on to all of that. What an amazing man and an amazing story, an amazing life. Gifted man, giving to the community, building up the community in service and compassion. There's a song, and these are coming from his, his playlist, that we're going to play now from Blue Rodeo, and it's called Try. So let's listen and see if we can hear Ralph speaking through that song.
And you made up
The shadows gone. Don't worry what you're leaving behind. Every time you walk in the room, I could never be sure of a smile. You were never the same way twice. I'm falling in love, but night after night. Oh, it's great. Oh, you got to try. Why don't you know you got to try. Oh, baby, you try. Every time you walk in the room, could never be sure of a smile. You were never the same way twice. I'm falling in love, but night after night. Oh, it's great, yeah. Oh, you got to Those pictures just remind me of what we just said. Such a gifted man involved in so many ways in the community, building it up. So we'd like to take a few minutes now to hear from some of the people who loved Ralph so much and invite them to come forward to share some of their experiences and memories of Ralph. And I think I'd start with Elliot and Elizabeth.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for your support and love over the past week as we have dealt with this loss, as well as over the past few years while my dad brought them us in. Whatever form that support may have taken is greatly appreciated, and it fills my heart to see and hear how much of an impact my dad had on the community. Thank you once again to each and every one of you. Growing up, my dad had two identities to me, dad and firefighter. I have always been so proud of him for being a firefighter, and every time I saw and still see a fire truck today, I was so excited. As a dad, he was an excellent protector and provider. He protected us from many things, but in particular, many of his stories, as I'm sure he didn't want us to know the full extent of the danger that he faced at work. The subject of debate right now is how he broke his leg. Elliot and I were told that a hose wrapped around his leg while he was outside the house, but most others heard that he fell through a floor. Did he tell us the hose story to protect us? Or was the cover to be a better story for breaking a leg? Someone will have to tell us the true story at some point, please. I didn't realize that my dad had a sense of humor until I hit adulthood. The signs were all there beforehand, but I was too young or too rebellious to appreciate. I unfortunately don't have copies of letters or older texts that he had written here with me in Ontario, but I do have a few messages from when he could still text. I did a road trip down the West Coast a couple of years ago, and a message before I left from my dad was, as they say in Flin Flon, be safe. I also got a message from him, where do you cross the border? I'll watch for you on Border Security TV show. On my birthday a few years ago, he sent a message that said, happy birthday, Elizabeth, love your father, and the two little chipmunks under the shed, and a woodpecker, and the skunk that smells bad at night. All wish you a happy birthday. I don't have nearly enough memories with my dad, but I will cherish the ones that I do have. Going to Sunday River to ski during March break, watching the Harry Potter movies together in theaters, having water gun fights in the backyard, B-52 shots at Christmas with the whole Carter family, whitewater rafting in Ottawa, being scolded for going to the casino, and many more. Thank you for everything, Pasha. I love you to the moon and back, forever and always.
Like my sister said, I want to thank everyone for coming during these COVID times, and we appreciate everyone showing their support. I love hearing all the stories and positive memories that you have about my dad that I hadn't heard before. Please keep sharing so that people can. There's one thing my dad passed on to me, it's that we're both a man of many words. I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if it wasn't for my dad. He taught me so much, and I'd be happy to be half the man that he is. And maybe one day I can grow half the mustache that he has. Some of my favorite memories is all the times fishing together, playing in the snow, going to hockey practice, and to this day, I still can't take a fish off the hook. But you may find it hard to believe, but if you saw him in his later years, he looked better than ever. He always had a smile on his face, and he's still smiling to this day. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I know I love you all, and he loved you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you. He would be so proud of you too. So proud. Ralph's family home from the Edney area asked me to do a reflection that they wrote, and I'm just going to share it for them today. So Ralph was born into a family of 5 siblings, 2 brothers older than him, Greg and Rob, 2 sisters and another brother younger than him, Janice, Brenda, and Brian. It says, we led a very normal, loving life with 2 very caring parents, Lois and Bill. There were some times, though, that those 2 older brothers may have picked on their brother, as all brothers do. All I cared about, now this is Brenda speaking, all I cared about was that Ralph was there for me when Greg and Rob picked on me. We may have to fix this up later, I don't know. And I always rooted for Ralph in the crossfire. Way to go, Brenda. I was 6 to 9 years different from the brothers, so I really wasn't their main target anyways. Ralph obtained summer employment very early in high school years, which is when some of us connected with him. And this set a precedent for the rest of his life, ambition and success. Ralph always enjoyed family get-togethers. Some traditional happenings were corn roasts and fish fries at the fall in the Carter home. Ralph and Bill in charge of setting up the tripod and griddle for the fish and grill and pot for the corn. The heat was intense. By the time these 2 finished cooking for 20 people, they were beet red. Now the first pot, it says here, was for Elliot. He was good for at least a dozen corn before they got to the other 19. Okay. Ralph, Bill, and Chris did dishes at all the get-togethers of the Carter home. The ladies were notorious for using every dish and pot and pan in the house. Is that true, Lois? Okay. This meant at least an hour of colorful firefighter jokes that the women couldn't hear. As we all know, Ralph had so many wonderful qualities in his life. This became prominent in his many years fighting MSA. He was the most courageous, kind, and unselfish person. He was so strong and always had a smile when we visited him in the Birchmere, as he accepted and silently fought his disease. His strength could have driven two teams, his teams, the Leafs and the Jays, to championships. I think that's true. In all of our hearts, Ralph deserved another medal. Dear Ralph, as you know, you will be missed dearly, and we will love you always. That's from his family. Another person here today who known Ralph, I think, for over 25 years is Kathy Monroe. And Kathy, could you come forward and share some of your thoughts?
Thank you for the opportunity to honor Ralph by telling you a few stories. I wanted to speak not just as a friend, but on behalf of many of Ralph's ski friends at Pine Ridge Ski Club, who are watching now, I'm sure. We have known Ralph for almost 25 years. Our kids went to elementary and high school with Elizabeth and Elliot. They were on numerous sports teams together. They hung out before, during, and after school. Both families especially loved skiing, and that was when our friendship really solidified. We and the Carters had joined a small, family-oriented ski club in Horseshoe Valley called Pine Ridge when the kids were young. As soon as the snow fell and the ski resort was open, we all skied together every Saturday and Sunday of every darn weekend until the club closed at the end of March. When the kids were in their racing programs, Ralph and the guys would go snowshoeing or cross-country in the Copeland Forest in the mornings, and the moms would go out in the afternoons. We had potlucks out there, dances, barbecues, and great times. During March break every year, we would go skiing, as has been alluded. We would go skiing to Sunday River, Maine. Now, when it came to skiing, Ralph knew what runs he liked and what runs he didn't like. White Heat was the longest, and it still is, the longest, steepest run in Eastern North America. That was not one of his favorites. That wasn't how Ralph skied. He preferred the wide open turns, the runs that he could just carve back and forth on. But Ralph was always up for a challenge. Even though he didn't like the sounds of White Heat or the looks of it, he did it. Maybe it was because Elizabeth and Elliot begged and pestered, got the best of him, and coerced him into it. But more often than not, Ralph would do runs that he wasn't keen on, but he wanted to face the challenge of them just once. He didn't have to go back and do the run again and again. Once was sometimes enough. We really got to know Ralph during these ski holidays. We did a lot of skiing together, sharing meals, and just enjoying all the après partying and hanging out that is part of such a holiday. He was quiet, but a lot of fun to be around. A favorite memory of Ralph at Sunday River was the year we had a flood. One day, everybody was down at the pool. We were in the condo, hanging up wet clothes from skiing, when out of the blue, the sprinklers in our bathroom went off and set off the fire alarm. Very quickly, the condo was being flooded with water everywhere. Needless to say, we were freaking out. With the fire alarm wailing throughout the building, Alan ran down to the pool area where everybody else was to get Ralph and our other friend Jeff, who were the firefighters, to come and help. I mean, these guys are trained to instantaneously respond to these types of emergencies, aren't they? And while Alan is panicking and yelling, Ralph and Jeff are sitting there calmly playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who the loser would be to go and help us. Jeff lost. He came up to the condo, but, well, you can't keep a good firefighter from a fire or from a flood, apparently, because only a few minutes later, Ralph comes moseying along to help out. They had to go into the bathroom with wooden spoons to jam the sprinkler to get it and the alarm to stop. And there once again are Ralph and Jeff playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who would be the one to go into the bathroom to get soaked. Jeff lost again. He went in. Water's everywhere. The condo is flooded. Stuff is floating all over, and we have to move. But Jeff wasn't the loser in all of this. Ralph was, because his condo was directly under us. Year after year, we'd all go back to Sunday River and make lasting memories of wonderful times with Ralph and the Carter family. Back in Aurelia, Ralph would often ride over on his motorcycle to our place for a cup of tea and a visit. I've been told I like to talk, but I promise you, Ralph, though he was quiet, did his share of talking too. Later, Ralph would pop by on his three-wheel motorcycle for the visit. Always a cup of tea and a little treat with it. And then life changed. And instead of Ralph coming to visit us, we went to visit him in his townhouse on Lackley Street. And then when that wasn't working for him, we'd visit him at the Birchmere. Or we'd see him in the park in his wheelchair that he had mastered and proudly told us he'd been to the Metro already, he'd gone up the main street, he'd gone to the pharmacy on Coburn to visit Lynn, who he said worked far too hard. He motored all over the place in that wheelchair. He also planned and hosted a birthday party for Lynn at the Birchmere a few years ago. Then life changed again for Ralph. We'd go and visit, and at some point, he was only able to barely whisper and mouth his sentences. Alan would say, "No problem, Ralph. Kathy's an interpreter for the deaf. She can lip read you." Thank heavens Ralph had shaved the mustache. And so between the three of us, we were able to make out and understand, sometimes through trial and error, what Ralph was saying. Alan would make a comment, crack a joke, and Ralph's eyes would crinkle up. He'd smile, and his whole face lit up. Every time we left the visits with Ralph, we would comment on what a beautiful smile he had. It truly lit up his whole face. We each have our own memories of this wonderful man. When I think of Ralph, and I speak to anyone about him, the words to describe him are always the same. They've been said here. They're simple but profound words. He was quiet but strong. He was goodness to the core. He exuded an aura of kindness. He was a gentle man. He was so brave and stoic. Through everything, he never complained. He was so proud of Elizabeth and Elliot. He loved you beyond measure. He loved his mom and his siblings. He loved his partner, Lynn. He was an incredibly good, gentle person. It was an honor and a privilege for Alan and I and our children to call him friend. We will all miss you, Ralph, but please rest in peace now.
One of the chapters of Ralph's life, kind of going backwards a little bit, was Weber's, Paul Weber on the highway. And there's a few of us in the room here who worked there a lot. Three of them are here today. Gary Cooper and Ken Pittman and Enzo Cutini. And I think some combination of them are coming up to share a couple of stories too. So come on forward.
Hi, everybody. I told him I needed a straightening, you know, and he was telling me earlier today that times are really different, he says. I went into the bank today wearing a mask and I gave them money. Ralph loved those. He's the only one that did.
Enzo's famous for not having the best jokes. That was good.
Ralph liked. Mike asked me if I wanted to say a few words, and I don't have a lot of words, but there were a few things in the last few years that just stuck out. And you know, we go visit Ralph. I go with my wife, with these guys, and he the one thing that will stay with me forever, that this gentle soul going through what he was going through, and the smile. I just heard it. The smile. That's imprinted in the back of my mind. So I had to say that. And then the other thing is, anytime we talk to people about Ralph, my wife will say, "There's that portrait of him standing there, the captain." And, you know, that's there too. So those are the things that stick with us. And communication was difficult, but I still recall we were there. My wife and I were there not too long ago. I think it was in February. He pulled out his letterboard, and we told him something about there were some great deals at some place. I forget the details of it. Oh, there's fantastic deals. And he pulled out the letterboard and said, and we're trying to figure out what he's saying, "Start the car." Thank you. Say hello.
I just wanted to find out where all of Ralph's nicknames came from, because at work at Weber's, he was Ralph Cactus Wally Carter. I know where Cactus came from, but I'm not sure about Wally. A dear friend, gonna miss him forever. Thank you.
It was 51 years ago that we all got together and started working out at Weber's, and he was the same then as he was right at the end, just a lovely, lovely man. Our thoughts were with all the family.
Thank you, guys. I heard it said, I think by the family, that Ralph always wanted to be a fireman. that goal came true for him for 30 years. And I know many of you know so much about that story. We'd like to call our retired Chief Ralph Dominelli forward now to say some words about Ralph and memories of him in service.
So I'm honored to stand here today to reflect on the life of retired Fire Captain Ralph Carter. First, on behalf of the Ray Fire Department, past and present, I would like to pass on our condolences to his mother Lois Carter, his children Elizabeth and Elliot, and their mother Diane, his dear companion Lynn, his brothers Gregory, Robert, and Brian, his sisters Brenda and Janice, and the entire Carter family. I know I can speak on behalf of all the members that it was an honor to serve in the fire service with Ralph and to work together to protect our community. Retired Captain Ralph Carter started his fire service career with the Aurelia Fire Department as a volunteer firefighter on September 8th, 1980. At that time, firefighter Carter was working full-time at the Ronia Regional Center like several other volunteer firefighters. The chief of the day preferred to hire individuals that worked at the HRC due to their ability to leave work when their pager went off and because of their knowledge of the HRC large facility. As many of you know in the room, a high percentage of our emergency calls to the HRC were false alarms and the odd fire. Being a volunteer firefighter is a 24/7, 7 days a week part-time job. Ralph was pulled away from many family gatherings and endured many sleepless nights in order to help protect and serve his community. In pursuit to become a full-time firefighter, Ralph mentored and learned from many veteran firefighters who taught him that to be a professional firefighter, you must be dedicated and committed to the fire service and the community. Ralph amplified these traits. On January 2nd, 1989, Ralph competed and was awarded a full-time position with the Aurelia Fire Department. By October 16, 1995, Ralph was promoted to lieutenant, and then on December 4th, 2008, he was promoted to captain, and he served the OFD as a captain until he retired on October 31st, 2010. In speaking with former members of his crew, Ralph was known as being a very caring supervisor who worked hard to provide his crews with an environment that they could learn, develop, and thrive in. Throughout his career, retired Captain Carter fought several fires and responded to numerous emergency calls. In 1998, the Aurelia Fire Department began a medical assist program that included external automatic defibrillators. 2 days after completing the training for this program, Lieutenant Carter and his crew responded to the report of a fire on Elgin Street, which was around the corner from the fire station. Upon arrival, the crew found a fire on the front porch and a 19-year-old female lying unconscious on the front lawn. Lieutenant Carter and firefighter Al Fenton attended to the patient and determined that she had no pulse. Using the training that they only had just completed from paramedic services, they were able to restore a pulse using the automatic defibrillator. Lieutenant Carter will always be known for having the first official defibrillator saved for the Fire Department. Retired Captain Carter was known for being a very honest and trustworthy firefighter. When probationary firefighter Glenn Higgins was given the opportunity to mentor under firefighter Carter, he discovered just how trustworthy he was. Firefighter Carter directed firefighter Higgins to retrieve a tool from the rescue truck. Unbeknown to Glenn, firefighter Matt Hines was waiting on the top of the truck with a 5-gallon pail of water. Well, we all know what happened next. Ralph stood there with that straight shooter look that he was known for and swore he did not know that was going to happen. Like Luckily, Glenn had another uniform in his locker. On his days off, Ralph was very involved in the community. He participated in food drives, fashion shows for cancer, highway garbage cleanups, and many others. One year, he attended a curling bonds field for Big Brothers. Firefighters can be quite competitive, and his team of Al Fenton, Brian Fox, and Glenn Higgins ended up winning the bonds field. Well, Ralph thought this was great until he found out that the tradition in curling is the winners buy the losers a round of drink after every game. I don't think Ralph ever curled again. Ralph really appreciated the time off that shift work as a firefighter provided him, because that meant he had more time to spend with his children, Elizabeth and Elliot. Firefighter Derek McKenzie explained that when visiting Ralph, his favorite thing to do was talk about his children. He loved to talk about his son's adventures and travels. He always lit up when his daughter was coming home for a visit. He was a very proud father, and his kids meant the world to him. My family and Ralph's lived on the same street for several years, and I always remember Ralph riding his bike down Granville to and from work, wearing his full Orillia Fire Department uniform, complete with a fire cap. He was very proud of his career and wore his uniform with pride, even while riding a bike. After Ralph retired from the Orillia Fire Department in 2010, he and his companion Lynn traveled to Portugal for 3 weeks and made many great memories with their friends Jim and Sandy. He also enjoyed snowmobiling and his time on the Seven River. Ralph loved to ride his motorcycle, and in 2013, when the early stages of his disease appeared, Ralph wouldn't let MSA stop him from riding. Instead, he traded his two-wheel motorcycle for a Spyder so that he could continue to enjoy riding through the countryside. And Elliot and Elizabeth, I do have the official story for you that he broke his leg at a fire down on West Street, and he tripped over those. And it was probably one of the worst breaks that somebody could have in their life. And according to firefighter Fenton, he did fall through a floor in 1993 on Albert Street, and was cut off on a pipe. So there's two stories. As a firefighter, you are exposed to many difficult situations and toxic atmospheres. You give so much of yourself through your career to protect your community that you look forward to retiring, to spending well-deserved time with family and loved ones. Unfortunately, Ralph was given limited time to do that. Ralph fought a long battle, and he did so with strength, determination, and with the people he loved by his side. Retired Captain Ralph Carter, thank you for your service and for being such an easygoing, caring, and compassionate person throughout your life. Rest in peace, brother firefighter.
Thank you so much. We have some music from Ralph, and it's going to change the atmosphere in here a little bit. So just get ready. But Ralph wanted this, and you know, what Ralph wants, Ralph gets. So this is Ralph's favorite, Born to Be Wild.
And whatever comes our way, yeah, I got no way behind, but I can take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of the gun, and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, listen to the beat, and the feeling that I'm yeah, I got no way We were gonna be right. We can try so hard. I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
You know, for such a quiet guy, he was pretty wild, wasn't he? He was. I want to really thank everybody today, especially the ones who shared. You filled out Ralph's life for us, because I think we all knew parts of Ralph's life for different phases, and that today's really given us a full picture. And we're really grateful for that. We're really grateful. Thank you. In a few moments, when we finish here, we're going to go outside, as I mentioned before, for a drive past for many members of the wider community who can't be here today because of COVID, who still want to dedicate. So I really invite you to come out with us. We'll be let out in a few minutes, and they will drive by. So I think that's a wonderful tribute. Maybe just to finish today, there's a psalm, again going back to the scriptures, and psalms are really written by community prayers. So people like us gathered together, writing prayers in times of joy, in times of sorrow, and saying goodbye. And this prayer is probably the best well known. It's Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I'm sure many of you have heard it before. So I'd just like to finish with that as a reflection. And maybe as we do that, just to think of Ralph and his life, and just, I think in his spirit, how much he knew these words were true. Wait till you hear the words that gave him that inner strength that he had, and that inner peace, and that courage that he had so strongly. This is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me to lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You lead me in paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and may Ralph rest in peace forever. Amen. So thank you all for being here today. There is a song which will be played, and it's Stairway to Heaven. And it's one that Ralph wanted to hear, and I think it's very appropriate for today, for Ralph's journey here today. So we'll start the music in a moment, and then I think I'll leave it to the staff here when we're ready to lead us out the back door. So just let the music carry us, listen to the words, and again, thank you all so much for being here today. A wonderful tribute from all of your hearts to Ralph. And Ralph, thank you so much.
seems sometimes all of our thoughts of this king. Makes me wonder. Makes me wonder. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for me. In my thoughts, I have seen rings of smoke through the trees, and the voices of those who stare up. Makes me wonder. Really makes me wonder. And it's whisper that soon, if we all call the truth, then the Bible will lead us to reason. And a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forests will echo with laughter. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. That it makes me wonder.
Concludes the service in the chapel. Again, thank you all for coming and sharing this incredibly special and important time with the family. And thank you to those online. We are going to go outside for the drive-by, for those wishing to drive by and see the family. So if you would please just stand in your seats, and you're welcome to follow the family out the back doors once they pass. Thank you so much. Try to keep some distance, please. Just be sure to keep some distance.